about this time that I went to Laughing Yoga, which I mentioned before on the stage here at MoMondays. And it was in the darkness of my own life that I received this indescribable experience of being joyous. I remember coming home from that Laughing Yoga, and my son and my daughter-in-law said to me, "The energy around you." And I felt like I was on cloud number 9. And I thought, frickin', how is it even possible that I'm feeling this way when everything is falling apart? It was in that space that I realized that what I was giving my patients all these years, which was joy and happiness and joking with them when they were sick in the darkest times of their lives, that this is the very thing I experienced, which made me realize that our inner, deeper states are not what the mind is creating, all this havoc, all this worrying, all this remembering terrible things, projecting horror forward. That deep inside, our inner states are love, peace, and joy. And we are disconnected through our thinking. And so I started meditating, and I experienced states which I will not say about. But with all of this, I realized how powerful the humor is. So I started practicing it even more in the hospital. And like I mentioned earlier, fascinating things were happening. One of the most fascinating moments was when a man who had profound faith in however he named his God was being touched by me, because I was doing physiotherapy, so therefore I was touching my patients, and the energy which I was plugged into transferred onto him, and he lifted totally paralyzed hand instantaneously and touched his head. His wife witnessed this. But weird things like this were happening, and it was being noticed in the hospital, so I had to freaking retire before I started investigating all of this. But I couldn't stop the joy that I had since my Laughing Yoga. So on one occasion I walked into my patient's room and I was doing exercises with him. He was waiting for heart transplant, and his wife was always there. She was so elegantly dressed, and she was a beautiful woman. So being a woman who liked style, I would always check her out. So one day when we finished exercises, I said to the guy in the bed, as he was resting, I said, "You know what, every time I come in here, I check your wife's booty." The man almost stopped breathing. He looked at me, he said, "Zofia, do you realize what we just said?" And I said, "Well, every time I come here, I check. She has all different kind of boots she wears." And there was Evelyn, who had paralyzed hand and couldn't speak after her stroke. And somehow I got this idea we're going to sing together. So I asked someone, they printed the lyrics, because I don't know many English songs, and we started singing "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." She couldn't say the words, so she was trying to carry the tune. She was sucking at this, and I wasn't any better than her. So we were howling in this room, and the nurses, everyone around us, including her neighbors, were laughing. And at some point, she looked me in the eyes and she said, "Thank you." And these were the first words she spoke. And there were many more stories. At some point, realizing that this poetry has such a powerful influence on people, I decided I'm going to publish books. So one day, after speeding tickets that I received, I crossed all the connections, and I came to a place when I saw the pictures of all these anchors from CTV station. Sylvia Kuzik was still working there. So I got this idea, I'm going to meet Sylvia Kuzik. And would you believe, one to the next, I actually ended up getting into the elevator, pushed the button in the elevator 3 times. The first 2 times it took me to the 2nd floor. The 3rd time it took me all the way up. And before you knew, I met her. She actually had a word about my upcoming launching of my book, which became bestseller in Winnipeg. But the coolest thing is when I went to help her, to thank her later with a big bouquet of flowers, she gave me a tour of the place. And that was one of my wish. When I was delivering this free press in the darkness of the night, I would arrange my way of going through the routine in such a way that I would stand on the 15th floor and I would wait for the sun to rise. And I imagined, now I know, that I had all kind of dreams and wishes that I was thinking about being in the darkest and the most tiring time of my life. And they all became reality. And one of these things, I remember when I was driving through intersections, seeing her picture, I remember thinking, I want to meet that woman one day. So as she gave me the tour of the CTV station, we came to a place and she started introducing me to people there, and one of them being Kupsami. And the only time I watched TV was then on lunchtime at work. So I said to Kupsami had this program from a restaurant somewhere in the Osborne Village with chef who was cooking in front of the camera. So I said to her, "Michael, I see you on at work when I'm watching," and I said, "But what the heck? What kind of name of a restaurant is that? Mice?" She looked at me puzzled. She said, mice? I said, yes, mice. Who in a straight mind would name a restaurant mice? She realized what I was talking about, and she said, no, it's not mice, it's miso. I looked at all of them, they howled like you did, and I said, English is my second language and the best excuse I ever had. I stepped out of that place, and I remember thinking to myself, who are you? 2 years earlier, when I met Fred Penner and I was to this distance to him, I was physically shaking and I couldn't say a word. I turned around and walked away. And I knew that I became a different person, that I am not intimidated like I used to be by people who I, in my mind, created to be better than me and greater than me and more talented than me. Suddenly, they seem to be all like me. And I have to tell you, at the end of this year, I'm actually speaking at a national conference, and Fred Penner is opening that conference, and I'm closing it. Like, this is so freaky. But one of the stories I want to share with you as to I take people at the face value is, it was actually Jamie who sits there. We were invited to a fundraising event, and it was for a kidney foundation. And at some point, Jamie says to me, let's go, they're taking pictures with him. Okay, so I follow Jamie, and in the hallway there is a man, I call him Chocolatka, you know, he has quite the complexion, darker than us, and lineup of people waiting to talk to him. And we were there rather first, right? And I came to him and I said, who are you? I said to him, obviously people are lining up to have a picture with you taken, you did something. He says to me, my name is Mel Stiegel. I said to him, yes. He says, well, I played football. Yeah, obviously you played it well, so because these people are interested in it. He tells me that he gives me some TV station. I don't watch TV for 12 years. So I said to him, it sounds like a sports channel. He goes, yes. But that story continues. I used to be blonde then, bleach blonde. So then I'm invited to my girlfriend's husband's birthday party, and it's Super Bowl. And I'm introduced to various people, and I know nothing about sports, as you can tell. So the guy who is next to me, sitting there, and we're talking intermission and all this, you know, fireworks and who knows what else. And I said to him, my goodness, so much money goes into this gray cup. He looks at me funny. I know I did something wrong. I glance at the TV screen, it shows Super Bowl. I said, that's right, Super Bowl, no, how do I say it? Grey Cup is about hockey. And I'm telling this very story, I'm telling you at another function I'm sitting, and there's a young couple which I'm telling the very story, and the man says to me, do you know who is sitting on your left? And I said, no. So there's a guy, and I said, what's your name? And he says to me, Wilmer Reeves? And I said, yeah, so? I told him the story about Mel Stiegel. Anyway, you wouldn't believe, with all the changes in my life, doors are opening to opportunities. If I wish for something, it becomes reality. Because I follow my heart, I do what I love. And it seems the more we do what we love, we are having different energy to us. And when we have that energy, the world wants to be around that energy. So I think the biggest deal that we need to figure out in our lives is, what brings you to the state of being on cloud number 9? For me, it is making people laugh and making fool of myself. And I do it skillfully everywhere. Even on the elevator. I remember asking once when the two numbers to my left and right were not matching, I said to the people who were standing behind me, about 20 of them, I said, and what would happen if these numbers didn't match? And one guy piped out, we would be going sideways. Humor is truly power. Laughing, dancing, listening to uplifting music, because even though our 5 senses are convincing us that we are matter, we are not. We are energy, and everything that you are touching, sitting on, drinking, and putting in is having influence on that level of energy you have. So make sure that what you put into your body is vibrant, it's fresh, it's not depleting you of energy, including coffee and drinks, I'm sorry to tell you, and hang out with people who emit that energy, because the people who want to have higher frequency, they will automatically affect your energy and they will pull you up. And that's all I have to say. Okay,